This is a true fact about Oregon, and it's one most people have never heard. In the late 1800s, the U.S. government commissioned a lighthouse to be built on Tillamook Head, a high cliff above the Pacific, known for shipwrecks and thick fog. The location was remote, constantly battered by storms, but promised visibility for miles. Construction began in 1880, but it stopped just 2 weeks later. Why? That's where things get strange. The foreman filed a report claiming the crew refused to continue working due to unnatural conditions. He described tools going missing, equipment rearranged overnight, and workers hearing voices from the unfinished tower site. 2 men reportedly vanished while mapping the base of the cliff. Their bodies were found 5 days later, washed ashore miles down the coast, faces pale, eyes open, mouths filled with sand. The project was abandoned. Instead, the lighthouse was built miles away on a rock at sea, what we now know as Tillamook Rock Lighthouse, aka Terrible Tilly. But hikers on Tillamook Head still report strange activity, disoriented footsteps, sudden fog banks, voices echoing through trees, and one chilling pattern. People who camp too close to the cliff sometimes wake up covered in sand, even if they never left their tent, even if the cliff is 400 feet above the beach.
This story was sent in by a guy named Nate. He's an avid solo hiker who used to track wildlife with trail cams. Used to, until this happened. I've been hiking solo around Mount Hood for the past 5 years. I don't do anything extreme. Mostly day hikes, sometimes an overnight with a hammock and a good forecast. A few months ago, I started messing around with trail cameras. Small, motion-activated ones hunters use. I was more into photographing deer, foxes, and maybe the occasional cougar. I had 3 cameras set up along one of the lesser-used loops. No name on the trail, just a thin offshoot near a clearing about 5 miles in. Quiet. Never seen anyone else out there. Every few days, I'd hike in, swap the SD cards, and head home to check the footage. Most of the time, it was what you'd expect: wind, raccoons, a blurry elk at night. But on the 4th trip out, something was off. Camera number 2 had no timestamp on the last file. No date, no time, nothing, just a string of dashes. That had never happened before. The image itself was blurry at first glance, but as I looked closer, I realized it wasn't an animal. It was a person. Standing about 2 feet from the lens, they were barefoot, pants torn at the knees, no shirt, just standing there, bent slightly forward like they were looking straight into the camera. Except their eyes weren't aimed at the lens. They were just slightly off, like they were staring at something behind the camera. Their face was pale, lips slightly parted. The expression wasn't angry or scared. It was more like listening. The photo lasted about 3 seconds. Then black. No follow-up frames. No motion trigger from them walking up or away. Just that one shot. I figured maybe someone wandered out there and got caught on the camera. But I checked the camera itself, no tampering. The memory card wasn't loose. The case wasn't cracked. But here's the part that really got me. The camera is password protected. You can't delete files without unlocking the settings. It autosaves everything triggered by motion. And yet, only that one photo showed up for a 72-hour period. Everything else, gone. I checked the others. Cameras number 1 and number 3 were fine. All files intact. But both had a 6-hour gap that matched the time number 2 would have been triggered. I didn't say anything to anyone, just reset the cameras and left. I probably should have pulled them, but I told myself it was just a glitch. 3 days later, I went back. Camera number 2 was gone. The tree it was strapped to had scratch marks on it. The bark was stripped clean in a vertical pattern, almost like claw marks, but smoother, more deliberate. I found the camera 30 feet down the hill. just sitting upright on a rock, still recording. I took it home and popped the card in, only one file. A video this time, 10 seconds long. It's hard to explain, but it's just a shaky frame of the same tree the camera had been attached to, but in the background, barely visible behind the branches. There's someone standing there, same pale face, same torn pants, and he's holding one of the SD cards. Mine. He never looks at the camera. He just turns and walks behind a tree and vanishes. I've hiked that trail dozens of times since, and I've never found the camera strap. Never found that SD card. I stopped using trail cams after that. I didn't even tell my girlfriend until recently. She thought it was a joke until I showed her the photo. But when I pulled it up on my laptop, it was corrupted. I tried to recover it. Only got a still frame from the very end, just the tree, and in the corner, a blurry shape behind the leaves, arms stretched wide, like someone getting ready to step forward. That night, I went to bed around 10. At 3:47 a.m., I woke up to a notification on my phone. My security camera had detected movement in the backyard. I live in a third-floor apartment. No balcony, just the window. I opened the video. There was only one frame. Too dark to see clearly, but dead center, just 2 feet from the lens, was a pale face. And this time, he was looking right at me. This story came from a couple named Aaron and Alex. They thought they were heading out for a peaceful weekend camping trip in the Oregon woods. What they found waiting for them made sure it was their last. We've gone camping every summer since we started dating. Usually somewhere remote. No RV parks, no crowds, just trees and quiet. Last August, we picked a spot off a Forest Service road near Sisters, Oregon. I had bookmarked it on a hiking forum. A few people mentioned it as a great hidden site with a creek and open sky. We arrived late afternoon. The road was rough, but passable. When we pulled into the clearing, we stopped dead. There was already a tent set up. A small 2-person dome, beige and red, tucked near the tree line. No car, no fire pit smoke, just a tent. Perfectly zipped up, gearless, no footprints. We waited a while, honked, called out, no one answered. Alex suggested maybe someone was hiking and planned to return. I wasn't sure. The place felt wrong. But we'd driven 4 hours and it was the only flat ground for miles. We decided to set up on the other side of the clearing. Our tent, their tent, 40 yards apart, separated by trees. That night, we made a fire, ate freeze-dried pasta, and waited to see if anyone showed up. No one did. At midnight, we zipped ourselves in and I tried to sleep, but I kept listening for footsteps. Zippers, breathing, nothing. In the morning, I unzipped the flap and looked across the clearing. The tent was still there, only it wasn't in the same place. It had been moved, not far, maybe 10 feet closer. I stared at it, trying to tell myself it was just a light or my memory playing tricks. But Alex noticed it too. "I think it was over by that stump yesterday," he said. "Now it's next to the log." We walked over. Still zipped. Still no sign of gear, no boot prints. The ground was untouched, like it had just appeared there. Alex leaned down and knocked on the canvas. No sound. We thought about unzipping it, but neither of us could bring ourselves to do it. That night, the fire didn't feel warm enough. Every sound in the woods made my skin crawl. I barely slept. When I opened the tent the next morning, the other tent was even closer. Maybe 15 feet away now, same direction. Inched across the clearing like a predator pretending not to move when you weren't looking. I asked Alex if he was messing with me. He swore he wasn't. That morning, we made coffee and packed up. But before we left, I couldn't help myself. I walked over to the tent. Alex stayed back. I reached for the zipper. It was ice cold to the touch, like it had been left in a freezer. I pulled it down halfway. The tent was empty, just dirt and dead leaves. No sleeping bag, no trash, no nothing. But something caught my eye in the corner. A small black rectangle. I reached in and grabbed it. It was a trail cam. Not mine, not Alex's, not strapped to a tree, just sitting there in the leaves. I took it home with us. Later, I popped the SD card into my laptop. Only one file. It was a still image. Timestamp. 5:03 a.m. Angle, low, like it was placed just inside the flap, pointed out. Subject, our tent. We're both visible, standing outside it. From behind, looking straight at the camera, only we hadn't woken up until 7 o'clock. We didn't get out of the tent until daylight. I showed it to Alex. He didn't say anything. He just closed the laptop. The next morning, I found our own tent, the one we'd packed and cleaned, propped up in the backyard, fully set up, still zipped. I haven't opened it, not yet, because every day it's sitting just a little closer to the house. This story came from a guy named Jordan, who worked night shifts at a fast food drive-thru in Portland. He said rain doesn't scare him, but one man in the drive-thru line almost made him quit. I worked nights at a 24-hour burger place on the east side of Portland, rain or shine. Usually quiet between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., unless there was a Timbers game or a bar let out late. Nothing weird ever really happened, until I saw the guy with the broken umbrella. First time was just after midnight. Steady rain. A few cars in line. I was at the window, bagging an order, when I saw someone walking through the drive-thru lane. That's rare, but not unheard of. Sometimes unhoused folks cut through. But this guy wasn't moving. He stood off to the side, facing the speaker box, about 2 cars back in line. He held a black umbrella, torn and flapping in the wind. One arm dangled at his side. The other gripped the handle too tightly. I told my manager. She stepped over and took a look, then went to the side door to ask him to leave. By the time she got there, he was gone. No footprints on the wet sidewalk, no splash marks, nothing. We brushed it off. Creepy, but whatever. Next week, I saw him again. Same spot, same torn umbrella, same stillness. Only this time, the camera feed glitched. It's a basic feed, 3 black and white panels showing different angles of the drive-thru lane. But the moment he stepped into frame, the monitor flickered and showed static for about 5 seconds. When it came back, he was gone. No customers mentioned him. No one honked, like they hadn't seen him at all. After that, he started showing up more often. Always when it rained. Always after midnight. But here's the thing, he was never wet. Even though the umbrella barely covered anything, his coat and hair were dry. No water dripping. No dampness on the concrete where he stood. I zoomed in on the camera footage once. His face wasn't fully visible, but I could make out a slight smile. It wasn't friendly, it was like he knew I was watching. I tried bringing it up with coworkers, but none of them ever saw him. Even if we were at the window at the same time, he wouldn't appear unless I was the one looking. Then, one night I was doing trash duty out back when I heard the headset crackle. "Order ready for pickup," it said. That didn't make sense. No one had pulled up to the speaker. I ran inside. The register had punched in a single item. Black coffee, no lid. Ticket number 404. We don't have manual entry. It only processes from the microphone. I printed the slip anyway, took it to the window as a car rolled up. But it wasn't a car, it was just him. Standing in the drive-thru lane, alone. No vehicle. He looked up at me, umbrella twitching in the wind. He smiled again. I closed the window, locked it. When I looked again, he was gone. The next morning, I checked the register logs. Order number 404 wasn't listed. The camera feed? Deleted between 12:02 and 12:07 a.m. I don't even close anymore. I switched to prep, moved shifts, avoided the window entirely. But last night, I parked behind the building to grab something from the walk-in. It wasn't raining, but my windshield covered in droplets. And there, on the hood of my car, was a black umbrella, broken, still dry.